As with boxing, when it's at the elite stage, you can't play games
without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you.
It's crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds.
Floyd Mayweather calls out Jake Paul over the no-knockout rule in his upcoming bout with Gervonta Davis, claiming Jake is more interested in hype and ticket sales than real competition. While Floyd admits both fighters know what they're getting into, he stresses that true boxing is about skill and challenge, not gimmicked rules that make the match feel like entertainment instead of a serious fight.
Like I said before, they know what they're doing. Both brothers.
Wade Plemons on X stated, "I think we all knew this would be an exhibition, but the Florida State Athletic Commission saying they will display skill without necessarily striving to win using strikes and blows to the head or other full contact maneuvers probably isn't the best to advertise the fight." Wade Plemons on X stated, "Plemons is known for his sharp boxing takes, and here he calls out the Athletic Commission for dulling the intensity by highlighting that fighters won't be aiming for full contact wins. He suggests that for fans expecting a real fight, this approach reduces the excitement." Floyd Mayweather, who has always thrived on competition, seems motivated not just by money but by pride and status, especially with his push for a bout against Mike Tyson. Meanwhile, the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis fight has generated huge publicity, yet Floyd appears determined to prove that no one, not even his protege Tank, can steal his spotlight. By arranging a fight with Mike, he ensures the world's attention returns to him, eclipsing the hype around Jake versus Tank. It's classic Mayweather: stay relevant, dominate the headlines, and show that his name still carries unmatched weight in boxing.
Now that there's so many celebrities and so many people that are known, where you can get somebody and they can sell tickets to events, that's what kicked off the social media influence boxing that Jake Paul was birthed from. Now we're in a vacuum. And so there's going to be a lot of conversation about that and continuing to do that. In this particular video, though, I want to get into the mind of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and why Floyd Mayweather Jr. would do this. There is the money, but there's also the competitive nature of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and him not wanting to have other people think that they're a bigger star than he is. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has not been able to really launch his star outside of the sport of boxing, so he continues to do exhibitions. Now, what I think is that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is announced it at this point in time with Mike Tyson, and in order to take advantage of the publicity heading into the Gervonta Davis, Jake Paul fight, which is, I do believe, set for November. So now that they have all the publicity and all that stuff coming out from that, he's going to piggyback on it and then try to have it in the beginning of next year sometime and actually make it a bigger event than Gervonta versus Jake Paul. And it probably will be. And the reason that I say that is because of Mike Tyson.
At the core of the debate is legacy. Mayweather, retired and undefeated, has little to risk in exhibitions, treating them mainly as a way to earn money and maintain his reputation. Jake Paul, still new to boxing, uses these events to build his profile. For Gervonta Davis, however, each fight has real stakes, shaping the direction of his career. By focusing on entertainment over genuine competition, Davis risks losing credibility with purist fans who want to see him tested against serious opponents. The key question is whether short-term fame is worth the potential long-term cost.
What is going to happen in that fight is basically the same thing as what's happening to Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, except for that is a live action fight that is a real competitive fight, but the marketing of it is the same thing, and the fact that somebody is going to pay for it is more likely with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Mike Tyson than it is with even Jake Paul and Gervonta. But I think that it really is an attempt to compete with Gervonta Davis by setting up a bigger fight than Gervonta Davis is having. And now I'm going to tell you this something else too. I would not put it past these people.
The Tank versus Jake Paul fight could have dominated headlines on its own, but Floyd Mayweather's latest move ensures he remains the center of attention in boxing. For decades, he has perfected the art of drawing eyes to himself, even by bending traditional rules. His strategy shows his competitive instincts. He won't let anyone, whether it's Jake Paul with his celebrity fame or Tank Davis in his prime, steal the spotlight. By setting up a fight with Mike Tyson, Floyd reasserts himself as the main attraction, combining Tyson's legendary name with his own undefeated record to create a far more marketable story than Jake versus Tank. The controversy around Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis comes from it being only an exhibition, not an official fight, as the commission refused to sanction it. Critics argue this turns the match into more of a show than a true contest, with no knockouts or official stakes, making it feel closer to WWE-style entertainment. While it generates short-term buzz, it risks weakening the authenticity of boxing for fans who value real competition.
Will face Gervonta Davis in an exhibition match. Quote, "You can't do a fight like that as a pro fight," Shipman said. "It'll be an exhibition fight," end quote. Similarly to the concerning location move, he states that the main reason for this is the significant weight disparity between the two opponents. An exhibition is defined by Florida statutes as a boxing, kickboxing, or mixed martial arts engagement in which persons participating show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win, using strikes, elbows, blah, blah, blah. So, the key word here is, key phrase, show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you. These are setup fights. These are rigged fights. I know Jake Paul gets upset when people say he ain't a real fighter and all that stuff. But I think the Mike Tyson fight pretty much showed everybody that, Mike was pulling back on his punches, and it just was weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Gervonta Tank Davis getting ready to sell his soul to go up in here and move around the ring with Jake Paul. I don't know what's going to happen on this. I don't know. But regardless of the fact, the fight is going to do well because it's going to be on Netflix. So everybody got Netflix, so everybody's going to watch the fight. So it's going to be like a wrestling event, basically, a fake scripted.
Former world champion Paulie Malignaggi has been outspoken about his concerns over the Jake Paul versus Tank Davis fight, arguing that knockouts only matter when they come against legitimate, evenly matched opponents. He believes setups like this undermine the sport and give Jake Paul undeserved credibility through spectacle without substance. In a debate with Chris Algieri, Paulie emphasized that casual fans might enjoy it, but true boxing fans recognize the fight lacks the integrity of a real championship bout. Central to his critique is authenticity. One key reason the matchup isn't considered professional is the significant weight difference between the fighters. The Florida Commission noted that such a gap creates unsafe conditions, approving the bout only as a controlled sparring session with predetermined rules rather than a sanctioned fight. This highlights boxing's structural limits. Entertainment can only go so far before regulations step in, and reframing it as an exhibition underscores just how unorthodox the matchup truly is.
Knockouts, dude. Knockouts. People like knockouts. They don't care if you're knocking out cab drivers. Look at Jake Paul's career.
You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture knockouts.
You can't manufacture.
To a degree, you can. To a degree. I mean, you can't. Yeah, Gervonta legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist,
champions.
If he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them. But the way Wayne did when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know? The way they did when Mike Tyson was doing it in his prime. Say what you want about the Mike Tyson era. He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was, to a degree, manufactured.
No, because he fought everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at
Teddy
that time
Atlas,
fought.
Teddy Atlas will 100% agree with this
with the
because
expense
he
of
would say the guys
Witherspoon.
that were afraid of
With
him.
the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who had contract
say the same thing about-
who had contract issues with King at the time. Oh, except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out. You can't say like, oh, but if he would have fought that guy, I don't know. No, with Davis, there's guys right now that have been hanging around for years. Yo, dude, when you gonna fight them? The lightweight division was stacked with talent. Even at 130, it had a lot of talent when he was there. Didn't fight almost any of them. So it's not the same thing as the Tyson era. You want to say anything about Tyson era? Fine. It wasn't as high level or something. He still knocked out everyone. There was nobody there in that era that you can say Tyson didn't fight.
Didn't say it was related. It was the same as the Tyson era. Didn't say it at all. I was actually going to say the opposite when you talk about Trinidad. Trinidad is a bona fide superstar, and the way that he was, and like you said, he
stepped
fought
him up
everybody,
and he knocked out.
and he was in knockout punches. No, of course. So that's a different thing. So is Sugar Ray Leonard. Now you also have to compare it to your contemporaries. Nobody is selling, dude. Nobody is selling. No one sells tickets. No one has a following these days. There's very few fighters who actually
there's
sell
a
tickets.
push, bro. I was at
Canelo
Showtime.
Alvarez.
I was at Showtime.
There's Canelo
There's
Alvarez.
a push, bro. But no, but champ. I don't want to keep cutting you off, but I got to because
They
here's the
all
thing.
push.
There's
work,
a
sometimes
push
they
for
don't.
certain people. I remember being at Showtime and even watching on HBO on TV. They're mentioning Saul Alvarez, who I didn't even know his name was Canelo at the time, as a possible Mayweather opponent. When they were talking about possible Mayweather opponents, I'm like, I knew who the rest of the guys on the list were. Who the hell is this guy? Who's Saul Alvarez? That he's going on, that you're putting him in a list with all these other guys that you were bona fide champions and high-level fighters.
Broadcaster Added Oladipo offered a different perspective, arguing that holding a fight like this while both Davis and Paul are still in their physical prime is a misstep. He believes exhibitions are appropriate once fighters are past their peak, as seen with Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Doing it now, with both athletes still building meaningful careers, risks diverting attention from fights that could define their legacies. For Oladipo, it's not just about the spectacle, it's about timing. These prime years are invaluable, and using them for sideshow events could damage their long-term reputations.
You agree with it or not, Gervonta is considered the #1 lightweight in the world. And it's a division that includes Shakur Stevenson, a lot of young guns coming up. I'm not any more sure if it's going to include Keyshawn Davis, but it's a hot division. He's considered #1 in that division. Like, that's why I kind of find this a bit, don't know. Like, there are challenges out there for Gervonta. There are big money fights out there for Gervonta. We want to see Gervonta in those fights. Again, I don't know how many fights people want to see AJ in, just to make the AJ Jake Paul comparison. One, as far as I'm concerned, that was Tyson Fury. I don't really have any interest in seeing an AJ in any other more fights. Whereas Gervonta Davis, I wanted and still do want to see him in so many more fights. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. These exhibition things are, like, really and truly, they should all be when your career's done. Like, when you think of Floyd versus Logan Paul, it's done, right? Floyd versus Conor. Did he have one more after? Was that it? I can't even remember. But it was right at the end. It was done. Right at the end. Even if it wasn't. Right at the end. These guys having these exhibition fights in between what is the peak of their career is kind of weird for me. Very, very weird. And then it isn't even comparable to Ngannou Fury, because at least these guys were the same size. Like, Jake Paul is a 215, 220 pound guy. I don't know what he walks around at. Gervonta fights at 135. Guessing he walks around about 1.
Reports revealed that Gervonta Davis canceled his planned rematch with Lamont Roach to pursue the Jake Paul fight, a move that raised eyebrows as it highlights how spectacle can outweigh genuine sporting challenges. Roach offered a competitive bout that could have advanced Davis's career in a traditional sense, but he opted for the higher-paying, less meaningful option. This tension between money and legacy is becoming more common in modern boxing, worrying critics about the precedent it sets for future fighters. What makes Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis particularly compelling is the clash of attributes. Jake has a natural size and power advantage that could dominate physically, while Davis brings elite skill, speed, and years of professional experience. This contrast creates unpredictability. Will technical mastery overcome raw power or vice versa? Such matchups are rare due to weight classes, and by breaking that barrier, the fight adds both danger and intrigue, keeping audiences engaged despite its unofficial status.
So breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th. in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamont Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last, or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So he's supposed to be fighting other ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight. But instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, is a lot more skilled. Jake has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
Former heavyweight Eddie Chambers weighed in, reminding everyone not to underestimate Gervonta Davis. While Jake Paul's size advantage is clear, Chambers emphasized that Davis's skill far surpasses Jake's. A smaller fighter with superior technique can still dominate a larger opponent, especially one lacking refined boxing ability. Chambers framed the matchup not as a simple mismatch, but as a test of whether Jake can handle elite-level boxing intelligence. For him, the takeaway is straightforward. Size matters, but skill often matters more.
That something like this can happen, but this is social media, this is what is created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, you know, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot, so I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing and what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is gonna feel something from it. And it ain't gonna be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out.
What stands out is how effectively exhibitions work as business ventures. Mayweather has already proven the model. Pair fighters from different eras or backgrounds, market it as an event, and profit from the spectacle. Jake Paul has followed this formula successfully, and now Gervonta Davis risks entering the same territory. These events thrive on controversy, debate, and social media buzz. Whether fans love or hate the matchup, the result is the same: attention, which directly translates into pay-per-view sales.
Make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground. I don't know what else, bite him. I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that, but he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. You know, it's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to knock him out or, you know, but he's going to feel it.
Are you surprised at the backlash that Tank is getting?
No, yeah. What is going on with why are they mad at the fighters for this?
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time.
That's it for today. Stay tuned for more updates.